Yo, what is poppin', my 420 army? It is your boy, the mighty Liam 420, and we are here with another film review. This time is Ice Age. Yes, the original Ice Age from 2002. I have the DVD of the film right here. Yep. This was another film I know this was actually, I posted this on Instagram like way a long time ago, back when I was still doing the bad movie rewrite series, and because I plan on doing the 5th film collision course in that series, and I figured, why not? You guys want me to review 1 through 4, and a lot of people said yes. So we're doing that. We're reviewing the first 4 films, starting with the first film, which is coming out in March on the film's 18-year anniversary. Holy shit, this movie is 18 years old. Well, it's actually February 19th at the time I'm recording this, but you're not seeing this until March 15th, so... yeah, basically... tell you how the original Ice Age starts, and then... as I review later films, I'll eventually tackle what caused the franchise to start going downhill. But basically it starts with Scrat, the saber-toothed squirrel, voiced by... it's Chris Wedge, like the creator. He actually provided the... by the way, Scrat doesn't have dialogue, and he only communicates through grunts and screams, but Chris Wedge recorded all of Scrat's grunts and screams, so... if you're wondering, that's what it is. We start with Scrat. He's walking through, like, a blizzard, trying to find a spot to bury his acorn, which he usually does in a lot of the films. Like, a lot of the spots are, like, too frozen, but then when he finally does find a spot, it causes, like, a huge glacier to come loose and start, like, chasing him, which he runs from. Even though he does try to grab his acorn, it's like, fuck you, I'm not leaving my acorn behind. So he grabs his acorn, and then, like, another glacier starts coming towards him. It's like, where'd the second glacier come from? That's a little weird. So then... he's trying to escape. He tries to escape the glaciers, even though he briefly gets caught in them. And it's like, yeah, if this was real life, he'd be dead. Well, actually, Scrat has a lot of stuff that happens to him in the films where it's like, if this is real life, he would be dead. This being one of them, he's nearly crushed by a glacier, then he goes falling through the sky until he lands on the ground before he gets stomped on by a bunch of animals, and also this is where the title card shows up. He's repeatedly getting stomped on until he gets stuck on the foot of, like, another animal, which I don't really know what the animals in the Ice Age films are, but, like, 2 of them are talking, how do we know it's an Ice Age? Yep, dropping a roll credits moment in the first 5 minutes. Because of all the ice! I don't know what the animal creatures are. I'm pretty sure someone who's like a die-hard Ice Age fan can let me know in the comments what they are. But then the herd is walking and we kind of see all the other animals when Manny the Mammoth, voiced by Ray Romano, is walking in the wrong direction. And then like one animal's telling him, dude, get the fuck off the road. But then Manny kind of gets all hesitant, gets all defensive. It's like, yeah, well, I'd keep my issues somewhere else. And then he just keeps walking, and then I know there's Glyptodons, like we even see some Glyptodons earlier, and like one jumps off the cliff, starts hitting these flights. Like, that's kind of a breakthrough, but I'm trying not to really focus on like details, which because results in my Brave review being over 15 minutes. But I'm trying to keep this review. I'll try to keep this review shorter than the movie itself. So, it just had been a while since I had done a film review, so, and kind of getting back into it, taking some getting used to again, so. Yep, after all the animals have cleared out, they walk past a tree where we see Sid the Sloth, played by John Leguizamo. He wakes up, he realizes his family is gone. He's like, they left without me. They do this every year. Why does no one care about me? That is kind of fucked up when you're just ignored by your family and they just leave you behind. And then also a Glyptodon walks by and he steps in the Glyptodon shit. Like, as the Glyptodon took a shit right in front of the tree and Sid stepped in it. It's like, ew. I don't know why. Because, yeah, Sid is literally picked on by everyone. He's kind of like a comic relief, but they just basically made him like a tortured, like a butt monkey character, like Squidward from SpongeBob and even Meg from Family Guy, where they're just created to be abused, tortured, or harassed. So then Sid walks through and he meets these 2 rhinos named Carl and Frank. I don't see what their names are. The Wikipedia of this movie doesn't have them. Their names. Oh, actually, they are. Stephen Root voices Frank, and Carl. Cedric the Entertainer, who voiced Maurice in the Madagascar films, is Carl. It's like, wow. So then they see a dandelion. They're like, I thought the migration wiped them all out, all but one. But of course, their moment is ruined when Sid comes in and eats the dandelion. It's like, you bastard! You ate our dandelion. And of course, they're pissed, and Sid even wipes off all the Glyptodon shit on them before he trips over a log, and he's like, hey, here, no, it's alright, here. Have some pine cones, and he actually eats a pine cone and tries to get them, but then he runs away when the rhino starts chasing him, and he crashes into Manny. And then, yeah, Manny is just kind of a total dick. I always hated Manny, because how much of a dick he is to Sid. In this film, like, of course, like, he's trying to bargain with Carl and Frank, and, like, and Sid tries to step in and just results in Manny furiously telling him to be quiet. But then he eventually tries to be nice and tells them, alright, if you get across that sinkhole, you get the sloth. But then they realize the sinkhole's dried up when Sid throws a rock, and he's like, you were bluffing, right? Yeah, that was a bluff. And then we do get a cool action sequence where Manny throws Carl and Frank away before he and Sid fall off the cliff while they're celebrating. And then they continue walking after Manny's like, get off my face. And, yep, we basically have 2 of our 3 Stooges. Yeah, I kind of compare Manny, Sid, and Diego. We'll get to Diego later, but basically me and Sid at first. They're walking and, like, trying to get Sid to leave him alone. And because basically, if it compares like the 3 Stooges, Sid would be Curly, and I think Manny would be Mo, or Manfred as he called in this film. But then, obviously, the saber-toothed tiger, Diego, voiced by Dennis Leary. He's like part of like a saber-toothed tiger pack, which the saber-toothed tiger actually did exist in real life before it went extinct, obviously. Same with the mammoth. I'm pretty sure sloths are still alive today. I mean, they are, but I've just never seen one that looks like Sid. So then, Diego's pack leader Soto is finding out a baby Rossan. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but because he's never referred to by name in the film, aside from Manny referring to him as Pinky a couple of times, and then Goran. I don't know how you say that name, but they're figuring, alright, we'll get our revenge from stealing this baby from a tribe of Native Americans. They look like they're natives. So they plot that, and then we cut back to Manny and Sid just kind of walking through the woods, and then they eventually they decide they'll camp for the night underneath like a log, and Sid tries to get a campfire going, but there's rain, and then Manny just roughly leaves Sid outside while he camps in his shelter, and then it starts healing. So it's like, hey, Manny, can you scoot over? It's healing out here. It's like, fine. Just use your tail as shelter. So then we cut to Scrat climbing up a tree. Well, we show, like, Scrat is just kind of like a side character. He kind of crawls up trees, and then he's trying to, like, plant his acorn in a tree, but then he gets hit by lightning. But then we kind of cut back to Diego, who's, well, actually, so we've already got our first characters fleshed out. This movie did a really great job of doing that, explaining, like, who they are and, like, what sort of troubles they go through. But, well, we see Maze later in the film, but for Sid and Diego, they did a great job. So then, Diego's pack, they decide to invade the camp, get the baby, which Soto wants, and then some of the other tigers in their pack are Zeke, voiced by Jack Black, Lenny, who's voiced by Alan Tudyk was Lenny, and Diedrich Badger was Oscar. They're all saber-toothed tigers, but then they're just fighting the natives, and then Diego tries to go in the tent to grab Roshan, but then Roshan's mother isn't there, and she grabs him before running out of the tent with Diego in hot pursuit, and then They're human, like, the Rajan's father tries to help his wife, but is stopped by, Soto and the other saber-tooth tigers, and then Diego chases her over to the cliff where the waterfall is, and then she ends up jumping off. Of course, Diego doesn't jump off after her. It's like, yeah, I'll never find her down there. So then he tells his packmates, yeah, I lost the baby over the falls, but he fails to mention that the mother jumped off with the baby, and then Soto's like, I want that baby, Diego. Meet us at Half Peak. I think it's Half Peak. I forget. I literally just watched the movie before recording this, so... And then he also threatens to kill Diego if he fails, and before they head up to Half Peak. Yeah, I think it was called Half Peak. When they get over there. So, yeah, and by the way, Soto is the main villain of this film, so he's basically just like a ferocious pack leader who's even threatening his enemies. He even threatens his own members. It's like, damn. I wonder if, well, because obviously in the actual Ice Ages, the animals couldn't talk. So I guess they still kind of did communicate with each other. Wait, but then we cut to Manny and Sid walking with each other, and then they come across the waterfall and Rajan's mother. Of course, Manny's just being an asshole, not telling Sid. Well, after they get Rajan, they pick up Rajan, his injured mother slowly drifts away, never to be seen again. She probably drowned. Manny's being an asshole and refuses to take Rajan back up the waterfall, so Sid decides to do it by himself, but then as he's climbing, he drops Rajan and Diego catches him, and then Diego introduces himself to Manny and Sid. He's like, you guys are an odd-looking couple. And he's like, no, there's no us. We're not together. It's like, he was like, yeah, sure, you guys want to adopt a child since you can't figure it out. And what do you think? It's a male sloth and a male mammoth. How are they supposed to have a baby with that? Yeah, so it's kind of showing Manny's selfishness and arrogantness, while Sid's clumsy, and then Diego would be Larry if you're going off of Three Stooges. Diego is Larry, Sid is Curly, and Manny is Mo. But then when they get to the top, they realize that the humans have left already, and Diego actually tells them that. It's like, yeah, I told you they were gone already. And he's like trying to bargain with Manny, trying to get him to hand over Rajan, showing Manny's trying to trick Manny to hand him over. It's like, okay, either you can give me the baby or you get lost in the blizzard. But then Manny decides, yeah, I'd rather get lost in the blizzard than hand over a human baby to a ferocious predator. So yeah, instead it's just like, haha, poor Tiggy Wiggy is getting left behind. And he's like, no, Sid, Tiggy Wiggy is actually going to lead the way. It's like, okay. It's like, yep, so basically all three characters are trying to deliver a baby home. And I know, this is a little similar to Monsters, Inc., but it's different. So eventually they're walking through like alleys, and of course Rajan's crying because Sid is holding him upside down. It's like, why would you hold a baby upside down? That makes no sense. So they figure, what's wrong? Why is he crying? So they're even like hitting Sid, trying to get Rajan to laugh, but then they decide, no, what if he needs a diaper change? And Sid's like, yeah, humans are disgusting. It's like, yeah, they kind of are. So then Sid changes Rajan's diaper and throws it at Manny after Manny threatened to pummel him. It's like, jeez, dude. He's so rude. Of course, Diego decides to have some fun. He's like, alright, where's the baby? There he is. He keeps doing that, getting more fierce each time. Well, actually, he only did it twice before Manny tells him, stop, you're scaring him. We need to find some food because he might be hungry. So they decide to look for some food for him before they realize there are some dodo birds preparing food for the Ice Age with 3 melons, which they found they found one of the melons in a bush earlier, but then the dodos took it away, and Manny's like, hey, can we have our melon back so we can feed this baby who's starved? And the dodos are like, no! These are our melons! Beforehand for the Ice Age. And then we just get like a silly sort of fight sequence where like they're just trying to get the melon, and like it's just like a montage of like the melons getting thrown off cliffs, and then even the dodos just stupidly running off after it, and then the leader of the dodos like, there goes our last female. And then the second melon ends up going into like a fire pit, which and then it was even warned by another dodo who's like, don't go in that pit, you'll burn and die. So then three more dodos fall in alongside the melon, which then they're all like, the last melon. So then Sid grabs the last melon, and then he's trying to get away from the dodos after he's like cornered, and then he just runs through them before smashing the melon on the ground. And Diego's like, God damn it, Sid, now I need to find more food. Which, no, actually, you are supposed to cut a watermelon before you can eat it, because I don't even know how you would eat the skin. It's pretty... Yeah, and then the dodos are still all confused, and Manny just laughs like, haha, dinner and a show. It's like, okay, so we get a cool little action sequence, and then and try to keep it more silly for the kiddies. So then he cuts to that night where Sid is like trying to find some food. After he gets slapped with a tree branch, he pulls Scrat's acorn out of a tree before Scrat attacks him. It's like, hey, don't you touch my nut. But then Manny and Diego are getting some sleep, and then Sid returns to get some rest himself and decide, okay, we'll find the humans tomorrow morning and then take this back. And then we're free to go. But then Sid's trying to fall asleep, just making the most random sounds you can imagine. Like, and then before Manny yells, will you stop that? And then Sid's like, just trying to make myself comfortable. And he falls asleep. It's like, who even sleeps like that? And that's kind of weird. And then Diego wakes up in the night. I think what he was planning on doing here was grabbing Roshan and trying to just slink out before Manny and Sid wake up. But he's thwarted by Zeke and Oscar, who came to tell him, Diego, what the fuck is taking you so long? Another nod shows how dangerous Soto is. It's like, either come back with the baby or don't come back at all. That's what Zeke tells him, and then Diego tells him, okay, so then tell Soto that I'm coming back with the baby and I am bringing a mammoth. And they're like, what? Mammoths never travel alone. Well, this one does. It's like, damn, that's a lot of meat. So then after they leave, Diego was back to sleep, and then the following morning, Manny realizes that Sid took Roshan away. And then... Well, actually, he didn't know it was Sid. He blames Diego at first, but then they realize, oh, Sid took him. And then we see Sid in, like, a mud bath with, two sloths that named, there's these two sloths that he's having, like, a hot tub with named Rachel and Jennifer. And one of the, I don't know which character is which, but actually one of them did appear as a siren in the fourth one. But, and I have to do some research on what character is which once I get to my 4 review, but Manny eventually comes and takes Roshan away, then Sid tells him, okay, ladies, just keep going. Then he leaves to get Roshan back, but then Manny's like, no, you do not need this baby when talking with those girls. So then Sid's like, fine, I'll just continue without the baby. But then when he gets back in the jacuzzi, Carl and Frank have replaced the two female sloths.
What a twist!
It's like, did they eat them? The movie never reveals what happened. So then Sid runs with them chasing him, and he runs into Diego and asks him, hey, would you mind pretending I'm dead for a sec? But then Diego's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Until Sid literally kicks him, and then Diego's like, okay, I'll do it. And then, like, holds Sid in his mouth while Sid's pretending to be dead. And then Carl and Frank actually buy us. They're like, God damn it, the tiger beat us to him. And then they walk away, never to be seen again. And Diego is actually hesitant on letting Sid go before Minnie tells him to let go. And then Sid's like, I thought you were actually going to eat me. And luckily he doesn't. It's like, yeah, it's kind of showing how Diego's, like, predator ways are. So, yeah. Then we get, like, a montage of them walking through, like, various ice paths, like, being blasted through, like, beams. Like, Sid gets blasted on one, then they go over, like, all tons of logs and stuff with a song called On My Way. I found out that's what the song was called that plays in this part. And then they eventually stumble across Scrat and decide to ask him for directions. But then they're just playing charades until Diego's like, fuck this, you get out of here. Because Scrat had apparently seen Soto and the rest of Diego's pack coming through, so they decided, no, we're... So he knew what the tigers looked like from... Sierra, from... I don't know, I almost said... But anyways, after Scrat's gone, they continue walking, and then there's more snowball fights and stuff, but after the montage ends, we see Diego. Well, Diego's actually leaning away when he sees the humans and decides, there's gotta be a way we can beat them. And he decides to lure Manny and Sid into a shortcut, and then they eventually go in there after the icicles start falling. And then, like, they're pretty much trapped in there once they're inside because of all the rocks. And then Manny's like, okay, I vote shortcut. Well, because obviously they can't climb up, and then, by the way, the patch of light gets faded by another rock, so they're pretty much forced to go that way. And then they're walking through, like, this building, this, like, ice sculpture that Diego then tells him it's easy to get lost in here. But then Sid whacks his head and he falls behind after falling on the ground, and then he's walking through, like, a maze of animals that have been frozen in ice, which, it's almost kind of like a museum in a way, like a frozen dinosaur, frozen fish, and then like a frozen platypus, like baby, young child, teen, adult. And then there's also a frozen UFO in there. Why is there a frozen UFO? But then as they continue walking, Rajan gets caught on an ice slide and then disappears from view. And then they panic and start going down the slides themselves, which results in a super funny scene with them going down ice slides, trying to figure out which way how to get to Rajan, and then we see that Scrat somehow got in there too. Sid does manage to grab him, but then he falls into a hole, and then Manny catches him before all three of them fall on top of each other, but then they lose their grip on Rajan and get to like a sled that they're like articulation that works the sled that helps them navigate a bunch of icicles. But then at the end of the chase, they grab Rajan and crash through a wall that Scrat had berries in. But then Diego's like, alright, who's up for round 2? Once they're out, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, tell the kids to be more careful. And then Scrat also falls for a drawing of his nut on the wall, which, no, that's not actually your nut. It's like, yeah, Scrat really provides some comic relief. He's like pretty much the only thing you can get right with the Ice Age films. You can pretty much use Scrat any way you want, and everyone will laugh, which is why the Ice Age Scrat sales on Disney Plus worked. But then they're walking through like caves, admiring all tons of drawings, and Sid's like, why are there no sloths on these things? And then he sees a mammoth, or it's like, hey, this fat mammoth looks just like you. Which, oh yeah, by the way, there was a scene earlier in the film where Minnie's like, I'm not fat, it's this fur that makes me look poofy. They used that as like a reoccurring joke in the films, where Minnie would say he was not fat. It was earlier that Sid also pointed out that it's hard to get fat on a vegan diet. Wow, some fat shaming. So then, Manny's looking at a drawing of a mammoth, and he has like a vision from when he had a wife, they had a kid, but then the natives ended up killing his wife and his kid. It's like, jeez. That is very sad. Which, this scene will probably come back into play when I review the sequels. But, yeah. After they leave the cave, they're walking, and then they realize they're not getting anywhere closer to the humans. They're still, like, miles away, but then Sid realizes the ground is heating up underneath him. He's like, what the fuck? Why is the ground getting heated up? And then he runs past Manny and Diego, and they're like, was that your stomach or thunder from underground? And then, like, literally a whole storm. There's, like, lava everywhere. And there's also a really funny part where Sid's like, come on, keep up with me. But he's just staying in one spot, and then Manny yells, I would keep up with you if you were moving. And then Diego had part of his path block, and he jumps over it, and then Sid's like, man, I wish I could jump like that. And then Manny's like, well, wish granted, before literally kicking Sid like a football. And then Diego almost falls in the lava, but luckily Manny saves him, and Manny almost dies too, but luckily he's saved. But then he survived, and then Sid wakes him up by staying on his trunk. Well, by accident, because obviously Sid didn't intend that. He was like, oh shit, Manny, are you okay? But luckily he was, and then they decide, you know what, we'll camp here for the night. But then Sid draws a sloth on the wall and starts a fire for them to camp by, and then they see Roshan is actually starting to walk. And Sid accidentally sets his tail on fire briefly, but then they decide to fall asleep. And we see a brief snippet of Scratch trying to thaw out an acorn, but then it just pops kind of like popcorn. And then it's like, yeah. And then here's, like, we're kind of getting close. Yeah, I'm kind of just skimmed through this because this isn't like a film I'd die hard for. Usually, if it's like a film I really like, that's when I give tons of details. Unlike this one where it's like, okay, there you go, and they're here at the end where Soda was waiting for them. And Zeke just wants to get his claws in the Manny, and Sid's like, no one's getting their claws in the mammoth until I get the baby. And then Zeke's trying to figure out what he wants to do with all the meat, but then Lenny's like, knock it off. And then Soto tells him, hey, easy, we gotta save your strength for when the mammoth actually gets here, because they're not super easy to take down. You three corner him, and then I'll go for his neck. And yeah, Diego actually really gets some character development here, because he realizes how being part of a pack is wrong. Because as they're getting closer to the pass, Diego sees his pack mates, and then he realizes, oh no, I can't keep this up all up for any longer. It's like, okay, I have to come clean. There's an ambush waiting for you at the bottom of the hill, because he was trying to hide it by saying, what if Rajan becomes big and starts hunting us? And then Sid's like, don't worry, I'm sure he'll still remember us. And then Diego says, or maybe he'll grow hair on his neck and start calling you Mama. And then that's when Diego finally reveals, look, I was trying to do it out of fear of my pack leader wanting to kill me. So then, of course, Manny and Sid are rightfully pissed at Diego for setting them up, and it's like, okay, fine, can you get us out of this? And then he's like, yeah, I'm your only hope. So then Diego goes over, they decide to put their plan into action. Diego goes over to his pack, and then it's like, look who decided to show up. And then that's when they see Sid carrying Rajan, or so they think, and then Diego orders them to get Sid, and then Soto's like, no, I said wait for the mammoth. And then we get like a really funny chase sequence where Sid is running, but then he jumps on skis, and then goes over a bunch of slopes, but then he accidentally drops Rajan, and gets on a slope, but then they realize, oh, he just put a snowman here. Before he runs back to a tree where he hid the real Rajan, get him out of there, but Zeke follows from a distance, and then But luckily Sid quickly realized and hammered Zeke into the tree before he could do any damage, but... yeah, Zeke is stuck in a tree and probably starved to death. It would make sense he starved to death, but then... we cut back to Manny and Diego, when Soto's like, come on, let's take this mammoth down. But then Diego's like, no, leave the mammoth alone. And so it's like, fine then, I'll take you down first. And then we get like an action sequence where they're all fighting each other, and then Soto injures Diego, and then Manny punts him into a wall where a bunch of icicles fall down and impale Soto, ultimately killing him. And of course they're not going to show the body in a kid's, because apparently showing a body impaled with icicles is too gruesome for a kid's film. And then Sonny and Oscar run away, never to be seen again. But then Sid finally comes back, and then they comfort Diego, and he's like, no, please don't die. It's like, but then Diego tells him, look, it's best that the baby gets back to his family. So that's what Manny and Sid do. They take Rajan back to his family, and then even though, like, when Manny starts reaching up, the natives are like, what is the mammoth doing? After he disarms Rajan's father before picking up the baby and giving him to his father, and then Rajan's father's like, wait, hold on, he just was bringing my baby home. So yeah, everything worked out. They got the baby home, and then the humans leave, and there's just saying goodbye, and then that's when they turn around and see Diego's still alive. And he tells them, 9 lives, baby. Yes, all cats have 9 lives, so technically Diego's down to 8 lives at this point. So, yeah, that's pretty much the end of the film. They're just kind of walking off and talking, and then we also get a little epilogue that takes place 20,000 years later, where we see Scrat frozen in a block of ice. He washes up on a beach and then starts slowly melting before his acorn is washed away from the winds, and then Scrat breaks out of his ice block, grabs a coconut from a palm tree, uses that to plant in the ground before creating a similar crack like at the beginning of the film that leads to a volcano, and yeah. That's basically the end of the film. And yeah, that's basically the first Ice Age film. It was really good. This film had some really funny scenes that I actually did laugh at, even though Manny's kind of a selfish dickhead, which I didn't. I really like about Manny because I was rude and arrogant he is to Sid, and sometimes even Diego, like he was in this film. Although he's not really as rude to Diego in the later films as he is with Sid at most times. So yeah, and also another reason why I decided to review the Ice Age films now is because of the 6th film, which I think is coming out in 2026, or 7th if you count Buck Wild. Buck Wild is absolutely horrendous, and I would never recommend watching it. Yeah, so that's why I'm not really looking forward to Ice Age 6, because, by the way, 2 and 3 weren't really that bad. I thought they were good, really brought the trilogy full circle, but then the 4th one was kind of where they started milking the franchise, and 5 was shitty, so yeah. That's basically the first Ice Age film. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this film. Do you think it was a great start of the series, which I personally thought it was, and let me know what you think of 2 and 3, and if you're excited to see those. Obviously, it's March at the time I'm reviewing. Obviously, this video is coming out in March, so I'll review the second Ice Age film, which is called The Meltdown, in April. Makes sense, I review one Ice Age film a month, so, yeah, that's basically it for this review. The action is, like, really, they did a really great job at explaining the characters' backstories and why they are, but yeah, that's basically it, and see you in another video. Please like, comment, share, sub, and peace.